Welcome back to 2KOA with special guest, my friend Nick. And you can say hi too.
Hi.
Ew.
Me to retry. Hi.
No, I'll keep in the first one.
Shit.
So welcome back to 2KOA. I'm Payton. This is my sister Paige, and we used to be 2,000 miles away from one another, but now we're in the same location, and we're actually kind of going old school back to our Zoom roots.
Back to our roots.
Yes, because I couldn't figure out the equipment well enough to not be laggy and whatnot. So we're in just the next room over from each other. So this week I have a special guest with me. This is my friend Nick.
What's
And
up? Oh, sorry. I thought that was my cue.
who's
I can already tell this
dancing.
is going to go really well.
I know. So the reason I have him on is because the subject for this week is going to be on sleep paralysis. And Nick here suffers from it.
I like how you're saying that so happy. Like Nick suffers from sleep paralysis, and which is amazing because we can talk about him.
Well,
And he's
so
here to
he
tell us
can-
how great that experience is.
Yeah. So anyway, so before we hop into it, I have one little bit of business. I talked to Paige slightly about it. Nick doesn't really follow true crime, so he's not going to have any idea who we're talking about. But Paul Bernardo, we are recording this on the 23rd of June, and Paul Bernardo was denied parole for the second time on June 22nd.
Yes. Can we get a cheer for everybody?
Yes.
Because he needs to stay where he's at.
Well, I
Yay.
think one of the main things that they're going to be trying to do now is because this man will never leave prison. Thank God.
No.
And I think what they're going to be trying to do is the victim's family, because I think in Canada it's every 2 or 3 years somebody is up for parole if they have a life sentence.
Oh.
It's way more than necessary. So I think what they're going to try and do, well, with people like him, he should never fucking leave prison.
No.
And to be putting the families through every couple of years having to go to a parole board hearing is awful. And it's
So they get
cruel.
like 20 second chances?
Kind of. Are you listening to music, sir?
No, I just like that concept.
Okay.
Your life is never thrown away. You get that chance.
He shouldn't.
His needs to be thrown away.
Again, I don't know who we're talking about, so I'm speaking out of ignorance.
It's fine. If I told you, you'd agree with me full-heartedly. So I'll tell you later.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So let's get right into it. So what is sleep paralysis? Now, the Sleep Foundation defines sleep paralysis as a condition identified by a brief loss of muscle, or atonia is what loss of muscle is called, that happens after waking up, or less commonly just before falling asleep, which I did not know. I thought it was just when you were waking up. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
Nick hasn't experienced that part of it, I guess.
Judging by his face.
No.
Yeah. So didn't realize that, but it does happen. It's less common, but apparently it does happen. Which I don't even know.
The more you know.
Yeah,
I don't want to experience that one. I have enough with the back end one.
The back end?
You know, when you're waking up, that's the back end of your sleep.
Okay. So these episodes will last anywhere from several seconds to several minutes. I did read somewhere that on occasion they last like 20 minutes. Like there's been cases where it's been 20 minutes, but I just saw that in one source. Yeah, I think it might actually just depend on the person. So sleep paralysis is categorized as a type of parasomnia. So parasomnias are abnormal behaviors during sleep. So because it is connected to REM sleep or rapid eye movement, that stage of sleep, sleep paralysis is considered to be a REM parasomnia. So standard REM sleep involves vivid dreaming as well as atonia or loss of muscle. Sleep paralysis is a normal part of REM sleep, which helps prevent acting out dreams, basically to keep you from sustaining injuries in your sleep.
Oh,
Yes.
whoa. I never thought of it that way. That's strange. I
So
mean, I guess it
everyone
makes
experiences
sense.
sleep paralysis?
So during it's sleep paralysis, one of the main symptoms of sleep paralysis is loss of muscle, so not being able to move. That is a normal part of your REM cycle.
Okay.
So
Oh,
when
okay.
you're dreaming normally, you shouldn't be able to move.
Oh,
So
okay.
it only
I see.
kind of becomes a little bit abnormal if you're waking up with sleep paralysis, which I'll get into farther, but I mean like if you're sleepwalking, like waking yourself up or whatever, that is attributed to abnormal sleeping behaviors basically. Essentially.
Hmm.
Going back to atonia being a normal part of your REM cycle, under normal circumstances, atonia, loss of muscle,
Mhm.
not like losing muscle, but not being able to move muscle. It
Lots of
usually,
muscle usage.
there you go. You're a smart guy.
I know.
Normally it ends when you wake up, so you shouldn't ever experience it.
Okay.
So because of this,
Mm.
researchers believe that sleep paralysis is essentially a mixed state of consciousness. That's going to go on our metal band from last week, by the way.
I like that. That
Yeah.
is interesting.
So it blends both wakefulness and REM sleep.
Okay.
So, therefore, the atonia and mental imagery of REM sleep seeps into being awake and being aware of your surroundings. So, WebMD, which I know, but still, explains it as an indication that your body isn't moving through its sleep cycles smoothly. So basically,
It's shifting real rough.
yes, it's the transmission is real clunky here. So basically, it's your brain. Your brain is awake, but your body is still stuck in REM sleep.
Even just explaining that's kind of terrifying.
Oh yeah, and we're
It's
gonna get to the
awful.
terror. We're gonna get to the
Yeah.
terrifying stuff.
We'll get to the terrors with me.
Oh yeah, because then I have some other stories too.
God, I hate your stories. They're always scary. It's so horror filled.
It's okay, don't you worry. God, I hate when you do that. Anyway, so in medical literature, there are two terms that are commonly used to categorize, man, words are hard, cases of sleep paralysis. So there's isolated sleep paralysis, which is when episodes are not connected to an underlying diagnosis of some sort of sleep disorder like narcolepsy, and it can happen in pretty much anybody, but I'll get to that in a moment. Or there's recurrent sleep paralysis, which involves multiple episodes over time, which could mean
Which
an
is what I suffer
underlying
from.
yes, which could mean an underlying sleep disorder.
And you said that is called concurrent?
Recurrent.
One of the currents?
That current, yeah.
Recurrent.
Recurrent.
Narcolepsy?
Yes. I've seen that narcolepsy can be associated with sleep paralysis, and also I saw that bipolar disorder, because there's some mental disorders. I don't know if I really want to call that, but like anxiety, bipolar disorder, order, that sort of thing as well.
CCC.
So in many cases,
I mean, that makes sense.
yeah. So in many cases, these two defining characters. Yes, sir. In the back.
I'm sorry. Narcolepsy is when you can't sleep or when you sleep too much.
Insomnia is when you can't sleep. That's what I have.
Okay, narcolepsy
is narcolepsy, you can have it like really severely where you fall asleep at random times, but it's
okay.
also
It's when
just
you
like
sleep a
being,
lot.
yeah, being like tired all the time. There's a
Yes,
bunch
yes,
of
yes. I
definitions
understand
to
now.
it.
Gotcha, gotcha,
I
gotcha.
honestly did not even find a definition to narcolepsy because
Hold
I
on.
wasn't. Thank you.
Here we go. A condition characterized by an extreme tendency to fall asleep whenever in relaxing surroundings. That's the dictionary definition, but
That's
I
a
feel like
terrible
that is a
definition.
very
I have a coworker who suffers from it. It basically is like you can sleep at any time, and then you usually sleep for long periods of time.
And you're
That's
usually
basically how
Yeah.
they.
and you're
Yeah,
usually
and
sleepy.
the symptoms are fatigueness, maybe headaches, um, constant drowsiness, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically like you're tired all the time.
No matter how much you sleep, yeah,
Right.
pretty much it.
So I think I'm
okay. This one's better. This is a chronic sleep disorder that causes overwhelming daytime drowsiness. And the cause of narcolepsy isn't well understood, but may involve genetic factors and abnormal signaling in the brain.
that sounds better than just
Yeah, that sounds right.
sleepy in the daytime. So, in many cases, these two defining characteristics, meaning the isolated sleep paralysis and recurrent sleep paralysis, are combined to describe a condition of recurrent isolated sleep paralysis, RISP, which I think is more of what you have, Nick. It involves ongoing instances of sleep paralysis in someone who does not have narcolepsy. So, again, this is kind of for someone that doesn't have any underlying sleep conditions. They just suffer from sleep paralysis. So now
Interesting.
the exact cause of sleep paralysis is not known. Studies have examined data to see what is associated with a higher risk of sleep paralysis and have found very mixed results. Based on that research, researchers believe that multiple factors are involved in provoking sleep paralysis. So it can occur in people with sleep disorders, but can also occur in otherwise healthy people. Like I said before, you do not need an underlying sleep disorder to get sleep paralysis.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
It can happen to anyone of any age or gender. Triggers usually involve stress, sleep deprivation, jet lag, work and sleep schedules, and sleeping on your back, which I'll get to it because that's super weird. Because we
Sleeping
talk
on your back.
sleeping on your back, sleeping in the supine position. I will explain because I looked into that a little bit. So
Okay.
it's common in adolescence, but if you're younger, it may have more to do with puberty and hormones than an actual trigger. So
Oh. Well,
It-
those fucking hormones, man, they can
Yes.
fuck you up.
yes, it can be linked to, like I said, stress, excessive alcohol consumption. Okay, the Sleep Foundation says that studies have found a higher risk in people with a family history of sleep paralysis, but no
Ooh.
specific genetic basis has been identified.
Oh.
So it can be present in a family, but they're not able to actually link it in any way genetically. But sometimes that they will see it in multiple family members.
Interesting.
Yes. So there are medical papers that discuss how panic disorders and PTSD can increase your risk of experiencing sleep paralysis. People with clinically diagnosed PTSD had a 65% increased chance of a sleep paralysis attack compared to the 15% risk of those without PTSD. And that's from the Sleep Paralysis Project that I got that from. Now, I've seen varied percentages on who it affects, but on average, what I've seen is anywhere from like 1 to like 40 or 50% of the population will experience sleep paralysis at some point in their lives.
That's quite a bit.
It's a lot.
Have either one of you experienced sleep paralysis?
Nope.
I don't think I have, but in the sense of waking up, not being able to move, I think I'm just one of those people that just wants to sleep so fucking bad. that when if I wake up and I don't move and I can't open my eyes, I think I'm probably one of those people that are just like, you know what, this is fine, and then I fall back asleep.
That is not how sleep paralysis works, but okay, sweetie.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think I've ever experienced it before. So
Your
I
body's
just
like, I'm gonna give her that one break she needs with her sleep, but every other part of the day, I'm gonna fuck her all day.
Yeah.
like so I can only think of one time where I was, but I don't think this is considered sleep paralysis because I think it was just a dream and I knew I was dreaming and I was trying to scream so I could wake myself up, and I ended up because it was really freaky, and I finally got out some noise in my dream and it came out of my mouth like a ooh, kind of sounded like my cat.
you might have been having sleep paralysis.
I don't know, but as
might
soon
have
as
been.
I heard myself and felt myself that come out of my mouth, I woke up and I was fine. But I think it was just a really weird dream, though.
Were
I don't
you
know.
in your room in the dream?
No. This was like a totally different place. It was somebody that I knew was dead, and they were trying to come after me, and it was a weird place. No, I knew it was not
Yeah.
my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no, I think, like I said, I think it was just a dream, but that's the closest that I could come to saying I
That's actually
experienced
pretty
it, so I
close.
didn't.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
I don't know.
I have
You
this
just
I have a story to share that's kind of like that. So I'll get to it. You know what? I'll get to it.
I'll get to it. She always does that.
I get ahead of myself
you're
because
cutting in line, Paige. You're cutting in line.
I get excited and I try and go ahead of myself, and then I'm like,
You know what? No, I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
oh, like,
That's
you know what?
always
No,
what she
that's
says.
fine. I'll get to it.
That's
So-
later in the schedule. It's later in the schedule.
Exactly. I have it written down later. I don't want to give it away right now. So
Jesus.
now let's talk about signs that you're having a sleep paralysis episode. Now, according to the book Sleep Paralysis, Nightmares, Nocebos, and the Mind-Body Connection by Shelley Adler, only 3 of these signs and symptoms need to occur to be considered a sleep paralysis episode. So, first one is you are awake. You're awake and you're aware of the area around your bed and distinctive elements like furniture and if there's another person who may be in the room. 2 is your inability to move. You cannot move, speak, or open your eyes. People say it feels like you're trapped inside your own body. You can try and move, but you feel really heavy. Nick is really shaking his head.
This bitch knows what she's talking about.
So it's basically your brainstem neurons don't communicate with your body, so you remain in REM sleep, so you cannot move. So also overwhelming fear and dread. So
yes.
the fact that you can't move, speak, or open your eyes, and hallucinations follow, which I'll explain in a moment. It's awful. It's terrifying. And because of the fear that you experience during these episodes, it can progress into a sense of foreboding connected to sleep. Because who wants to sleep when you wake up, all you see is awful shit and then you can't move and it's terrifying. So who wants to go to sleep if that's what they experience when they wake up,
Right.
Nobody wants to go to sleep.
So another one is difficulty breathing.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Now, a
Ooh.
pressure on the chest is a common sensation associated with sleep paralysis. The sensation is due to the body adopting a shallow breathing pattern needed for REM sleep, because you breathe more shallowly when you do sleep. So when your brain wakes up but your body doesn't, you're not breathing the way you normally do when you wake up. So you're still shallow breathing the way you do when you sleep.
Ugh.
Also, would you say the third symptom was?
Overwhelming fear and dread.
So when you have that rush of fear,
Mhm.
your breathing's going to change. So then you also feel like you're out of breath. So
Yeah.
that's happened to me when it was a
So-
long period of time.
So
my
add that
breathing-
to
Yeah.
your breathing already not being back to normal,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
Right.
just hyperventilating essentially.
Exactly. Because your brain, right when you choose that fear is what you're going to experience, your brain will adapt to make your whole body feel that, even your
Yeah.
lungs.
Because, I mean, if you're scared, I mean, how do I want to put this?
Well, that fight or flight kicks
Right. And
in.
yet, right. And
Basically,
you
your
can't fight.
adrenaline,
You
you
can't
start,
leave because you're
yeah,
Right.
paralyzed.
Well, and you can't do
So
either.
yeah, and you can't defend yourself. So all of your body's natural abilities to defend itself are cut off.
Right.
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, and then
Ugh.
you have a rush of adrenaline, but you're still in that REM sleep with your body is still in REM sleep, so it's not reacting properly the way the brain wants it to. So,
Ugh.
also some people have a sense of a presence in the room. Some people can sense or see a presence in their room with them, and this presence might be sitting on their chest. So, go
And
back
it's
to difficulty
not
breathing.
Burke or Hare.
No, it is not.
Thank goodness.
Although
First of all,
I really hope that anyone with sleep paralysis does not get a sleep paralysis episode with William fucking Burke on their chest. That would be horrifying.
that would be awful.
Also, lying on your back. So being in the supine position. Most episodes of sleep paralysis occur while lying on your back, and I will explain that in a moment. And then the last sign that you're having a sleep paralysis episode is weird dreams or hallucinations. So, because sleep paralysis occurs between REM sleep and wakefulness, dreams feel more vivid and the dreams become the hallucination essentially. So, the combination of not being
Ah.
able to move, speak, and just generally being terrified makes for some crazy hallucinations. Because here's the thing, your brain is awake, but it's still dreaming, if that makes any sense.
I mean, kind of. Well, because you can,
It's
I think everybody's experienced at some point, like where you're almost falling asleep. So you can still kind of hear things going on, but you're kind of sleeping, and then you get that feeling like you're falling and you like jerk. So you're kind of going to sleep, but you're still kind of awake as well and having a dream. So I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I can
also
compare it to
kind of
that.
going off of that. Ever since I've experienced this for so long, for such a long period of time, if I feel myself going to sleep, which I've never been able to pull myself back out of a dream, does that make sense? Right when you're falling asleep, have you ever your consciousness ever cut back on and told you that you're now dreaming? Have you ever had that experience?
I don't
So
know.
I don't
like
know
Because
that I don't know that I have.
I
so
think I'm
like ever
clinically
since
dead when I
this
sleep.
I think so.
So
lucky you. But
that's if I
now
sleep.
for some reason, because of the fear factor, I'm going to have sleep paralysis. I'm always in my head before going to sleep. So if I do fall asleep in a dream and I notice that I've now fallen asleep, I can bring myself back awake. And it's always like that rush of like, thank God I'm not asleep yet, because I feel like I'm going to get trapped again.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awful.
interesting.
And I've only been able to do that since having sleep paralysis. I've never been able to bring myself back out of a dream. I know that sounds kind of like Disney, but like it's you can kind of wake yourself back up.
It's interesting.
That is interesting.
It
Huh.
sucks.
Isn't it
Yeah, I
interesting?
bet.
Isn't it interesting?
Isn't it
It's just
interesting?
it's fascinating.
Yeah, that's bizarre. But so people commonly report hallucinations accompanied by auditory, olfactory, and physical symptoms. So some individuals said they've heard the sound of doors opening and closing, animal growls, footsteps, scratching, beeping or buzzing, and this last thing that I saw, whisperings of malevolent intent. Malevolent was
Words are
real hard.
so
They're really hard. People can smell dampness, mold, and feel as though they are drifting, rolling, floating, and being moved. And some have even reported out of body experiences.
Ooh, whoa.
just how crazy the hallucinations can get.
But seriously, smelling I think
The
I
smelling, the smelling
I
is
almost got
freaky to
more
me.
weirded out with smelling things.
So someone may be able to wake you, but it may not be enough to completely snap you out of the episode. And
Ooh.
I saw that waking someone from sleep paralysis might not be a great thing because it may make things worse by causing further disorientation, confusion, and fear. So I only saw that in one source though. So
I mean,
I don't think I would try and wake someone up from sleep
You
paralysis.
wouldn't you wouldn't be able to tell.
that's what I was
Yeah.
getting ready to say. I don't know that you'd
You
be able to tell.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell.
I
Because
mean,
you
unless
just look
you're,
asleep.
yeah, I mean, like, unless you're actually trying to wake someone up and they're just not waking up.
Right, unless it's like just a
Yeah.
very coincidental thing where you're like, hey, this person needs to get up, and and they're just ironically or coincidentally having a sleep paralysis episode.
Yeah.
I think that'd
Yeah.
probably be the only reason why you would try to wake somebody up during that or know that they're doing that.
Yeah. Because, I mean, unless it's someone that you regularly sleep with on a daily basis, you're probably not going to know, you know?
Yeah.
And plus these episodes aren't like they're forever long in your head because you're paralyzed, but they're not legitimately like minutes long. They're 5, 10, maybe 20 seconds long.
Yeah.
But just
Well, I've,
imagine not being able to move and being conscious for 20 seconds. Like in your head,
yeah.
it's a long ass time. You feel like you are dying, but in reality, the chances of someone trying to wake you in a 20-second timeline of 8 hours of a sleep time frame is kind of slim
Yeah.
to none, which I think that's why there's not a lot of information on that because the
Possibly.
likelihood is so small.
I read somewhere, and I mentioned above, but I don't think you had your headphones on at that time. I read that a sleep paralysis episode can last anywhere from a couple seconds to possibly a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So
hmm
that would
I
be
mean, I
terrifying.
think
That would be awful.
Either way,
my
like you said though, it would feel like an eternity,
right.
even if it was a full minute.
Mine, I think, are usually probably around 10 seconds, but I've had one that lasted, it could have been 30 seconds, but I think it's more like 20, 25 seconds. And just imagine like you watching your stopwatch on your phone and it takes how long it takes to get to half a minute. It
Mm-hmm.
takes forever.
Right.
And think about just watching the clock. That's how slow it is. And
Yeah.
that was the scariest moment because right when I experienced that one that took just 25, 30 seconds, I started thinking of things like, okay, so this is how my parents are going to find me and think that I have an issue. But in reality, I'm fine. I'm just paralyzed.
Yeah.
I think you
Because
told me about that one.
yeah, your mind will start to just phase out shit because of your fear and because of the paranoia. It takes you to a whole nother level.
Oh yeah. And some of the stories that I'll tell, even in just the small amount of time, this is what their brain created.
Well, that's like a dream too. They say that dreams only last a few seconds as well, but you can create an
Yeah.
entire world and storyline.
So fun fact, I've read somewhere that dreams actually only occur a few seconds within your REM cycle. So basically, if you start dreaming in your REM cycle and you are trying to wake up, but you're suffering from sleep paralysis, the dreams
dreams.
become your reality.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's not, I don't know if that's ever happened to me going off of that, but it's interesting enough. I think I've told you, Peyton, when we
Mhm.
lived together, that I can never remember my dreams. I've
Yeah.
only been able to remember, a handful in my entire life. I don't remember dreams. But since having sleep paralysis continuously, I've actually been able to remember some of my dreams.
More
Oh.
often than not.
Yeah, which is so weird. Those are
Ooh.
things that I've been able to like notice looking back at the moments. But now I've been able to remember numerous dreams since being home, and I've never been able to do that.
It's
It's almost like
crazy.
I've paid a price to remember dreams, and that's what sleep paralysis
It
is.
ain't
It's
worth
like
it.
it's the gatekeeper to let you remember shit. You want to remember this shit? Okay,
That
I'm gonna
is
paralyze you
crazy.
for 30 seconds a night.
That's awful.
And
Speaking
see,
of
I'm the
one,
opposite. I remember a lot of my dreams. And I dream a lot, and I remember quite a bit of them. I may
I
not
don't-
remember like the whole thing, but bits and pieces definitely stick out.
Now, treatment for sleep paralysis is often limited to just education about it, about sleep phases and atonia, basically. If episodes persist, definitely talk to your doctor. That's one way to help you with it. It's very possible that you might have an underlying sleep disorder if it's really persistent. And it's really common. It is found in up to 4 out of 10 people and doesn't usually indicate any medical problems.
But
So,
isn't recurrent sleep paralysis that's actually kind of rare?
not necessarily. Cuz I mean, if you're first of all, if you there could be a lot of all the triggers that I listed, alcohol, excessive alcohol consumption, high stress, irregular sleep patterns, your sleep schedule. There's a lot of things that can trigger it. And I know I've read of people that have like, oh, I experienced sleep paralysis my senior year of college because it was really stressful, blah, blah, blah. And then I've never had it ever again, kind of thing.
I definitely wouldn't say 50% of the population struggle from it, because if neither one of you do and none of my family members do, and no one I work with at work do, the
It's not
likelihood is probably pretty slim.
well, it's
'Cause
not it's not necessarily like 50% of the population suffers from it. It's it's possible that up to 50% of the population may experience sleep
just
paralysis
okay.
at some
Gotcha.
point in their life. It might
Okay, that
just be
makes
like a
sense.
one and done thing, not
Yeah, gotcha.
necessarily a reoccurring event.
Gotcha.
So there are ways that you can prevent sleep paralysis, and I will go over those. Now, there's some tips that you can follow, and this may help with your sleep paralysis. Tip number 1, regulate your sleep schedule, your sleep quality, and your sleep environment. So, general lack of sleep and an irregular sleep schedule are some leading causes of sleep paralysis. So, keep your sleep schedule as regular as possible and make sure you get enough sleep. Skip naps. Sleep schedulist, Colette Kushida, says that nappers seem to be more prone to sleep paralysis than people who don't nap.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I would have never guessed. I love naps. So, tip number 2, kind of going along with tip number 1, is relax. It's easier
Yeah.
said than done, obviously, but stress and anxiety are also major contributors to sleep paralysis, just like how stress and anxiety can cause nightmares.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
Yeah. So, consistent, relaxing bedtime rituals will help lessen your chances of having an episode. One of the things that you can do is adjust your room temperature to 67 degrees.
That's some good
Uh,
sleeping.
it is. Take a warm bath. One of the things that I saw suggested was clean your room. A cleaner room is, less cluttered room, less cluttered mind.
Right.
Basically, like a cleaner room helps anxiety levels,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. Maybe a warm glass of tea or milk before bed. Get comfortable pillows and blankets, and set up your room to have limited light and noise intrusion.
I wonder if a weighted blanket also could help a little bit, because that's supposed to help reduce anxiety and stuff like that. A weighted blanket.
I didn't see that anywhere, but I feel like a weighted blanket would almost make things worse because you already can't move if you're suffering from sleep
Yeah.
paralysis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Because I've had a weighted blanket laid on me, and I felt like it was the worst fucking thing ever.
You're also claustrophobic.
Yeah, and it was terrible. So I hated every second of it. And I'm like, ew, 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 get this off of me.
I don't
So
think I would like a weighted blanket simply
it's
because I get
heavy.
hot. I get so
A
hot.
weighted
I
blanket
get
is
hot.
heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All 3 of
Yeah.
us are hot sleepers.
Yeah. That's why I like to have my room super cold when I sleep.
Yeah, I feel bad because my poor naked
I'm
pig
opening
freezes.
I'm opening windows in the winter.
Yeah, basically. Another way to prevent is reduce caffeine and alcohol consumption, especially in the evening.
Oh, that makes
So,
sense.
yeah. So, another tip, don't sleep on your back. Most sleep paralysis episodes happen while a person is lying on their back. And you may be thinking, why? Nobody fucking knows. I've looked, couldn't find a straightforward answer. I just have theories.
Okay.
Now, in 2002, a J.A. Cheney from the University of Waterloo published a research paper on 2 situational conditions of sleep paralysis: body position and timing. So, timing, of course, relates to when you get your sleep paralysis, but the body position was interesting because when speaking on the position, Cheney suggests 2 possibilities for the reason the supine, laying on your back position, causes sleep paralysis. So, the first one is when you're laying on your back, there's a greater compressive force on your lungs from your heart in the supine position.
That damn gravity.
I know. Or one that I
Fucking Earth. Jesus. It's not
Fuck-
so easy living here.
it's fucking up my sleep. So
Damn gravity.
I love how it kind of echoed a little bit. Damn gravity.
Put me on a moon. Put me on the
I
moon.
don't think, well, that has no oxygen. So, but another one, which I thought was probably more plausible than your lungs are heavy,
And then gravity.
yeah, is obstructive sleep apnea.
What is that?
Oh.
Now, this occurs when the muscles that support the soft tissues in your throat, like your tongue and your soft palate, temporarily relax. So
everything's all like,
yeah, it's like because when you're because like normally it's like this is normal and this is like sleeping, you know? Did you like that visual?
Yeah, because you're like,
well, if you think about it, if you're laying on your back and everything is all relaxed through here and not doing its damn job, everything just kind of falls on
yeah.
itself,
So
basically. So obstructs your windpipe and stuff.
Yeah. So when these muscles relax, your airway is narrowed or closed,
Mm-hmm.
and breathing is momentarily cut off.
Mm-hmm.
This also causes snoring, by the way.
Yeah.
So in this research, it was found that this would happen in both apneic and non-apneic individuals. So even if you don't have sleep apnea, this can still happen to you.
Right.
So
So really, it's whoever and whatever.
yeah,
It'll get you.
So the reasoning behind sleeping on your back, again, just theories. No idea
I will say
why.
every single one of my episodes happened when I was sleeping on my back.
See, we've also discussed that, you and I was like,
I think
on
that's
your
is that what
back?
made you research that? Because
Yeah.
you didn't know that at first. Yeah.
No, I had no idea. Well, because I mean, I don't really suffer from this. Not
Right.
really. I don't suffer from this. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that unless you would have
I
told me.
think-
And I thought that was so weird.
I think maybe once ever I got it when I was sleeping on my left side, but that's maybe. It might have been my head was turned to the left and I was on my back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can still
every single time.
happen. It can still happen when you're on your sides, but it's more likely to happen if you're sleeping on your back, which
Yeah, I think it
is
all happens on my back.
fascinating. So basically, in short, just try to make a conscious effort to not fall asleep on your back to give yourself the best chance to not have an episode, basically.
Maybe that's another reason why I don't get this, because I'm a stomach sleeper.
Yeah, I never sleep on my back.
See, with me,
I do
when I
kind of,
sleep,
but
I fall asleep, or my first position is always my back, because I can kind of relax into my pillows or relax into the bed, and then I
yeah.
shift to a side through the night, and that's
Yeah.
how I stay asleep, is on my sides. But the way that I've combated sleep paralysis is, like you said, don't sleep on your back. So
Yeah.
I force myself to be uncomfortable and sleep on my sides immediately and never on my back, which then
Yeah.
of course affects my sleep quality, but I
Yeah.
don't have paralysis. It's only if I shift back onto my back through the night that I'll have it.
Yeah.
That's
And that's
interesting.
so strange. So you need a pregnancy pillow.
Well, you know me, I sleep with 5 pillows.
No, I know. But I'm telling you, you need a pregnancy pillow. It's changed my life. So comfortable. And it actually, since it wraps around your body, it keeps you in place. So it might help you. So I'm just saying. Yeah.
So for Christmas, that's what you can get me.
Oh, yeah. It'll be my present to you.
So sad.
So, why are we talking about sleep paralysis? Because of the hallucinations, of course, and the stories that come with them. So, let's talk about them. So, an estimated 75% of sleep paralysis episodes involve hallucinations that are distinct from typical dreams. As with atonia, these can occur when falling asleep or waking up. So, hallucinations during sleep paralysis fall into 3 categories. There is the intruder hallucination, which involves seeing a dangerous person or a presence in the room.
Ugh.
There's the chest pressure hallucinations, also called incubus hallucinations,
Ugh.
which I'll get to, which have a feeling of suffocation. And it will actually sometimes accompany intruder hallucinations. Or the third, vestibular motor hallucinations or VM hallucinations, which can include feelings of movement such as flying or out of body sensations.
None sound fun.
No. So around 90% of episodes are associated with fear, while only a small minority have a more pleasant or even blissful kind of hallucination, which I do have one story that kind of falls into that category, and it's weird, so I'll get to it. The perception of these episodes has been found to vary significantly based on a person's culture context. So
Oh.
the symptoms of sleep paralysis, like the hallucinations, the atonia, the chest pressure, all that seems pretty universal, but the ways that they are experienced vary according to time, place, and culture. So
That's interesting.
very interesting. So some scientists have suggested sleep paralysis as an explanation for paranormal phenomena like seeing ghosts, alien visits and abductions, demons, demonic possession, shadow people, that sort of stuff. So basically, like, culture is a big shaping factor of what your hallucinations are going to be. So
Yeah.
one of the main things that people talk about seeing are demons. They stand or sit on your chest, they're in your room, and they go by many names in many cultures.
Hmm.
So, the first clinical description of sleep paralysis was published in 1664 from a Dutch physician in his medical journal who referred to it as an incubus or a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So, sleep paralysis has been recognized for hundreds of years, but before we knew what it actually was, different cultures had different explanations for sleep paralysis demons. Actually, fun fact, in nightmare, mare is actually from a Norse word, and I think that means like demon or something. So interesting.
Oh, interesting.
So having different explanations for demons. So in Christian traditions, there's the incubus and the succubus, which is a demon that's supposed to like sit on your chest and like try to have sex with you or some shit. Indigenous
Ugh.
people from Canada believe that sleep paralysis is from spells of shamans.
Hmm.
Um, just giving you some examples. Japanese folklore says it's a vengeful spirit that suffocates people in their sleep. In Islamic mythology and theology, you might know them as the jinn, which you know what that is, Paige.
Hmm.
There's many kind of jinn, and I didn't really go in far into their mythology because it's a lot.
Also, maybe we might do an episode on him.
I'll let you do that because it's a lot.
Okay.
like jinn are some can be seen as good, while most, I believe, are associated with causing misfortune and possessions and stuff. In Newfoundland, in Canada, it's commonly referred to as the old hag.
No.
And in Brazilian folklore, they call it, probably gonna butcher this, pisaderia, maybe, which is Portuguese for she who steps. And this is really actually kind of freaky. She's a crone with long fingernails who lurks on rooftops in the night and then walks on the chest of people who sleep belly up on a full stomach.
So that's a weird Santa.
So it's something about the long fingernails that grosses me out.
And walking on the roof.
Walking on the
with
roof.
those long fingernails. That's gross.
What's that Christmas song? The up on the rooftop, blah, blah, blah.
That's exactly how it goes. Blah, blah, blah.
I don't listen to Christmas music.
That's the exact ad lib. Blim, blim, blim.
You're welcome. And alien abductions are actually a modern association and explanation for sleep paralysis. A lot of because you know how like there's so many stories of people saying like I woke up and there was two little gray men in my room and they like poked me and I couldn't move. A lot of people associate that as a sleep paralysis episode.
Stupid.
Okay.
They're on drugs.
Now, before I get into my creepy stories that I was able to find, would you like to share any sleep paralysis stories that you have?
Yeah, sure. I'll share my little tidbit. You were saying that a lot of things that trigger sleep paralysis would be kind of like beyond sleeping on your back.
Yeah.
Mine actually, because I have a fine sleep schedule, I don't drink hardly at all. Mine is always stress, anxiety, and depression.
Yeah.
And as I've aged, that got worse, and that is what's triggered my sleep paralysis. Because if I go to sleep in a good mood, like excited about the next day, I won't ever have it, even if I'm on my back. But if I've had a rough day or a rough week, that will trigger the sleep paralysis.
From the stress and whatnot.
Yes. And it's always like those three in combination, because I always have those three in combination. So it's always stress, depression, and anxiety together.
Mm-hmm. What are your episodes typically like?
So it's always right around the time that I'm supposed to wake up. So like my body naturally wakes up around the same time. Even if I go to sleep an hour earlier, an hour later, I usually wake up around the same time. So right when I'm supposed to wake up, I will wake up. So for me, sleep paralysis is my brain will completely wake up, but my body has not been told it can wake up. So I'm literally awake, but my eyes are closed and I'm paralyzed. So then your entire consciousness is awake. Like I feel completely awake and I'm completely aware of my surroundings, but I don't have any hallucinations or hear anything.
Knock on wood.
I'm just, mine are just paralysis. And then so what my brain does is now that it's like the first time I had it, I didn't know what it was. So of course I freak out. And for me, if I freak out too bad, I can strain muscles in my body.
Yeah.
So I can wake up with a hurt neck. I can wake up with muscles hurting because your brain, once your brain's awake, since it controls everything, if you're trying to force it, this is going to sound weird, but like if you're trying to force it to tell a limb to move, it can strain your muscles almost like subconsciously because it's thinking that you told it to move, but it never moved. So you're like straining stuff that you're wanting to move. So you have to like calm yourself and just wait for the episode to come up.
Yeah.
And then once it ends, so whether it be 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, once it ends, your body will just kind of like wake up, like you're like coming out of a nightmare. Like think literally the scene out of a movie, people coming out of a nightmare. That's literally what your body will do because it's like releasing all that tension that's built up.
Oh yeah. Well, that also makes sense as to why a muscle will get sore after that too.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you experience that heaviness in your chest then too? And difficulty breathing?
Yeah, but I my fear, my paranoia is so out the charts because I'm paralyzed. Because paralysis is like it scares me just talking about paralysis because that's so scary to like
Yeah.
Yeah.
not be able to move. So when you're actually in that state, you're kind of like your fight or flight. You're kind of like human innate senses take over, and you don't even think about hallucinations or noises. You have to almost focus on that to be able to hear those things or see those things because my
Yeah.
body's like, how are we going to get out of here?
Right.
How are we going
Right.
to move?
Yeah.
Because one detail that I mean, I think it's kind of speaks for itself, but you also can't open your eyes. So if you're asleep and you're paralyzed, even though you're awake, your eyes are not open and you
Yeah.
cannot open them. You can do nothing with your face. So that always scares me. You can't see.
Well, yeah.
I mean, so it's almost like you're blind and paralyzed, but all your other senses will work.
That's strange.
Well, I mean, count yourself lucky that you don't have the hallucinations because that's one of the things that we discussed when you first told me that you were suffering from sleep paralysis. Do you remember our conversation when I asked you, I was like, I asked you a question and then you went to explain it and then you told me what your experiences were and I was like, "Oh, I was getting ready to ask you a question, but I won't now." And you're like,
No, you did, and it kind of scared me because you can have hallucinations, like you just said,
"Yeah." Cuz I
but
that's one of
mine
the
aren't
things that I
associated
was
with that.
yeah, like cuz that's one of the things that I was really curious about when you told me that you had suffered from sleep paralysis and I'm like cuz my first question was going to be, "Oh, do you have a demon that you see?"
Yeah,
But
you
you
asked
don't
me that.
yeah, and you were like, "No, don't put that in my head." And I was like, "I'm really sorry." But that was
Yeah.
honestly one of my biggest questions because I'm like, I know I've heard stories of people that have seen like a grim version of themselves. I've I've heard of people that have having like um demons, dead relatives.
To me, that's not what sleep paralysis does to me. Sleep paralysis completely wakes me up and leaves me paralyzed. So my subconscious is gone. I'm completely conscious. I know reality and I'm just can't move. So I
Mm,
wonder, since my symptoms come from anxieties and stress and depression, maybe those don't correlate with hallucinations. Maybe people who have hallucinations have maybe substance abuse or they could have genetic correlations because I don't have genetic correlation with sleep paralysis.
well,
No one
Nobody
in
else
my
in your
family so
family?
no
it
one in my family suffers
literally
from it.
the thing is
So
it
something is
literally
different with me.
Possibly, but I mean, it literally varies per person, which is why this is such a
Right.
strange phenomena. Because, okay, you can be just like stressed about your finals and have a sleep paralysis episode and see someone standing in the corner of your room, kind of thing. But again, since you can't open your eyes, it's literally all happening in your head. Like you're awake, but your dreams seep into your reality, essentially. So
Yeah.
I'm
And
just
it's
like, no, go ahead.
no, you go ahead and finish with your thought.
No, I was gonna say like you're very I mean, don't get me wrong, having sleep paralysis is not a pleasant thing, but I guess you're very fortunate that you haven't had hallucinations.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, that would only just be like the cherry on top of the whole screwed up experience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I think it also has to do with like your mental health because everybody's body I think responds to different issues that a person goes through. So like
Yep.
mine being depression, anxiety and stress. I live in my head. I'm an introvert. I'm always in my head. I play out scenarios in my head all day long. I talk to myself. That's just who I am as a person. And since I put a lot of stress I think on my mind, right when I give it a chance to sleep, it's still stressed. I stress out that organ more than any other organ. I
Yeah.
feel like me personally, I just stress it out so much. And I feel like that is just like a repercussion because I do that.
Yeah,
That's how
maybe
I've kind of
maybe
just
it's
thought
like
about it.
your brain is exhausting your body, so your body needs to stay in that REM sleep a little bit longer than your brain feels like it needs to be. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just talking out of my ass as a possibility because again, nobody fucking knows.
Right. And then I love like when you look it up and it's like, it's completely harmless. And you're like, oh my God, that is an awful way to fucking describe this. Because I guess, yes, technically it's harmless. You're not dying, but you feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, I can't even
Um,
imagine.
I could definitely say that maybe like there's nothing to aid in it except your own personal actions. So like I try to have better days. I force myself to sleep on my side. Like you have to go like the extra mile because I
Yeah.
don't think it's not like it's gonna just go away with like a pill.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, unless you are suffering from some sort of um mental health disorder or maybe a sleep disorder of some sort, I mean, there's medications that your doctors can give you to help try and regulate your sleep. But as far as sleep paralysis goes, I couldn't find anything that would like truly solve the problem
Well, I
because
think that's
there's
just
nothing
because
that
they don't know exactly, they can't pinpoint it for
no.
anything. So I think that's probably why.
Yeah, because it's so varied per person,
Yeah.
because I mean, your sleep paralysis like for Nick, for example, he could have just not being able to open his eyes, not being able to move, and he gets it when he sleeps on his back a lot, but he doesn't have the hallucinations. Meanwhile, someone else could have crazy hallucinations and uh, different
And
symptoms
well,
And
and lead a similar lifestyle, but have completely different
and have completely different
hallucinations and
symptoms.
things.
Yeah,
Symptoms,
exactly.
yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
you,
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but like in all your folklores, every one of them were different.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
completely, like many folklore are similar in some concept. Like in this folklore I noticed when you were talking about it, is every one of them were completely different from each other.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
every
Mhm.
culture really can't pinpoint it because it's so
Because it's so
sporadic,
different.
and it's like
Yes.
it can happen to anyone. And there people are like, well, that obviously means since it could happen to anyone, it has to be a spell that someone else put on you, or
Yeah.
it has to be something to do with your dinner because maybe some
Yeah.
kids don't eat
Some
enough as other
some
ones. You're
creature.
like,
Yeah.
there's some so sporadic, you could just tell that people just don't understand. It
Yeah.
is just
Cuz
almost, it's almost random feeling.
yeah,
It's
because
almost
Yeah.
I
like they don't know, so maybe you're targeted.
right, cuz I think one of the things that makes it so hard to understand is like I said, maybe some of the symptoms are universal, but as far as the hallucinations go, those vary by literally every little thing in your life, which I think
Right.
makes sleep paralysis such a fascinating thing.
Mhm.
It's wild. So, I found a couple articles that just had some stories basically. So, I didn't I didn't go to Reddit or anything. I just like I found this is like from a BuzzFeed article. Now, I'm not going to share any like names or usernames or anything like that because I don't have permission to say their names. So this is from BuzzFeed article released or published July 8th, 2015. So this first one says, "The first time it happened to me was when I went for a nap during the day." So nappers.
Napper.
"I was lying on my side, facing away from my door, when I woke up to the sound of my door closing. I tried to turn around to see who had come into my room, but I couldn't move. My eyes were wide with terror. I could see everything in my room." But again, this is in their head. "I heard this thing walk around my room, then it sat on my bed, and I could feel the bed dip from its weight. It then shuffled towards me, and it felt like it began to spoon me. It was
Ugh.
extremely tall. I was trying so hard to move, but I was just lying still. The thing started breathing on my neck and tickling my back. It then stood up and left after a few minutes. This was the most terrifying thing that has ever happened to me."
Oh, holy crap.
Also, there's
You're
something
right. I have
about
it easy.
there's also something about being spooned by someone that you haven't been able to see.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's not only creepy and gross, but it's scary as
But
hell.
terrifying. So this next one from the same article says, "I see manifestations of horror in my bedroom at least once a week, from random people chilling on a chair at the bottom of my bed to creepy old ladies to swarms of flying ants or bats." The
Holy
worst
crap.
the worst thing I saw was someone hanging right above my head. I couldn't move. I wanted to cry. I couldn't sleep in my room for a few days after that. The
Oh my
likely
gosh.
Yeah, awful. The likelihood of it happening increases whether there's someone in my bed. This is mega awkward. Recently, some Tinder dude told me in the morning that I was, in quotes, like the fucking exorcist last night. And he wasn't talking about activities that happened when I was awake. Fuck my life. So the next one from the same article, and then I'm going to go into a different article, says, I was living at home with my mum, like M-U-M, mum. I love it, which I think is precious. I was
British.
precious. I was unwell, so I was in bed all day. My mom was home with me. I must have fallen asleep as I never heard her open my bedroom door or walk across the room, but I felt her weight sit on the bed beside me. I heard her pick up my cup of water as if checking if it needed refilling, and felt her brush the hair from my face. Then all of a sudden, I was being choked. I felt hands around my neck. I couldn't open my eyes as if they were glued shut, and I tried to raise my arms to break free, but it was as if they had been nailed to the mattress. I struggled to breathe and felt myself getting lightheaded. Then all of a sudden it went, and I could open my eyes and move again. My mom was
Oh my
nowhere to be
gosh.
seen. She was upstairs at the neighbor's house.
Oh my gosh.
No thanks.
No.
If there's any more
Thank you.
stories like this, I think I'm gonna head out because I don't need that in my life.
I have two more stories. So this is from a Metro article published October 22nd of 2015. I don't know why I found two articles from 2015, but whatever. So the first one says, I have two articles from this one. Sleep paralysis started when I was 7 and it was scary. I remember the walls shaking and a ringing in my ears going through a tunnel. This continued into my teens, and sometimes I felt I was battling entire groups of demons that spoke strange languages. Then I
Ugh.
explored lucid dreaming and following my spirit guides until they became unpredictable and began biting me and being evil in general. So this is the one that I said was really weird because it kind of ends on an enjoyable note, but it's gross. So then it says, in my late 20s, I discovered that I could have sex with the beings. I know you're thinking that is disgusting. I would move my hand to my private area and have an orgasm by myself without ever touching myself, strictly in my head. This would immediately send me to sleep afterwards, and it had the added effect of making the paralysis enjoyable. Like I said, that one's weird and it's gross. But I thought I would share that because this is one of the few times when it actually was an enjoyable experience.
It wasn't.
Still
That's not
gross.
the story is not an enjoyable experience for me though.
It wasn't for me either when I read it. I'm
No.
like, ew, yucky. I'm
I
like,
don't like that.
when I was in my 20s, I found that I could have sex with these demons, and it was great. Gross.
Okay. I don't think you should do that.
No, I don't. You know what? If you see a demon in your room, don't fuck it. Rule of thumb. You know?
Gross.
Disgusting. So my last story goes back to the freakiness. Not having sex with demons freaky, just, just being terrified in general. So the last one says, from the same article, says, so I am in my early 20s and I used to have mild hallucinations when waking up without the use of an alarm while being unable to move. This was years ago and it never really bothered me, but it happened this morning, which was kind of my fault. So I hung a jacket from the hood of a closet door on the way in front of me the night before. And when I woke up, I saw a woman standing there with the jacket on and her back turned. So I assumed someone I knew was lying in bed beside me. I don't know who. So I was trying to yell to the person beside me. Then slowly the woman standing turned so I can see her from the side. And it was my cousin who died last year and was just staring at the mirror on the door.
Ugh.
He says, at this point, he or she, I don't know, or they, I don't know. At this point, I am losing my shit, but I can't seem to yell out. Then all of a sudden, I regain movement and end up yelling, you see her, right? Right? What the fuck is happening? I turn and there is just a blanket laying beside me. And when I look back, I easily make out just a jacket hanging on my closet door. I'm still freaked out.
Oh my goodness.
So those are just a few little stories I found on the interwebs.
Well, okay, so then that makes me think that maybe I did experience a little form of it, because seriously, in my dream, it was a family member of ours that had passed away, and they were like coming at me and like trying to talk to me, and I kept trying to get away from them, and I could,
That's rude, Paige.
well, I knew they were dead. And I'm like, what is happening?
Why are you here?
Yeah, so I was like trying to, it was almost one of those where it's like you feel like you're in molasses to where you're moving super slow. So, but it was like a dream. I wasn't in my bedroom. I wasn't asleep. I was standing up and I was trying to run from this person, and they kept trying to come after me, and I kept trying to scream, but I couldn't scream in my dream. I I could not scream. And then I realized that I was in a dream, but no, I realized I was in a dream and I was trying to wake myself up. And
Sounds
then
like a lucid dream.
maybe that's what it was, because then I just all of a sudden I was trying to scream, and then I made that little like woo noise, and I heard that, and I woke up, but it was freaky.
Yeah. Another common thing that people will see, and there's studies on it, is a hat man.
A man in a hat. Yeah,
A
I've heard
man in a
that one.
hat. Yeah. Another very common, which I forgot to mention up above, but that's also a very common thing that people will see. Like in lieu of a demon, they'll see like a shadow figure with a hat. Super strange,
I
super
wonder if it's
weird.
a fedora or like a bowler hat or like
Or maybe a
baseball
top
cap.
hat.
Baseball cap.
I don't know. I don't know what
Cowboy
kind of
hat.
I don't know what kind of hat it is, Paige. Maybe it just differs on the demon. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know what his personal preference in hats is, but I mean that's also very popular as well. But yes.
And that would be
So,
just as terrifying.
oh yeah, because I'd be like, why the fuck do you have a hat on? We're inside.
Kind of like when you were mentioned in the
Stupid
not
bitch.
Stuart Northcott episodes where they noted that he didn't have a hat on.
Oh yeah, like
Like off, he
he
didn't have a
doesn't
hat.
have a hat on.
And
Oh
nowadays we're like, why are you wearing a hat? You know?
yeah. Well, no, my thing is, because I'm secretly an old man, I don't think that you should wear a hat indoors. So take it off when you come inside. Inconsiderate. So anyway, the last bit of that, I just wanted to share some fun little stories that you can find you can literally find any, if you literally type in sleep paralysis story, you get so much.
Right.
And it is so incredibly varied. I mean,
Right.
I've heard sleep paralysis stories on other podcasts. I wasn't going to tell them because I'm like, well, that's their story and that's their podcast kind of thing. But I've heard people have seen like Pennywise, like
Could you imagine seeing Pennywise? Good Lord, that would be awful.
I think it would depend on which Pennywise. So if it was like the
Yeah,
Tim
because he's
Curry,
sometimes sweet. He's sometimes like, "Hi, you
is,
want
is
a
it
lollipop?"
is it the
I'd be
Tim
like,
Curry?
"Yeah."
Is it the Tim Curry Pennywise or is it like the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise?
Even Bill had moments he was really sweet. I would make a little flower, so they'd be like, "Hey, thank you."
But still horrifying to look at. Like, oh,
Absolutely.
like
I
like
agree.
there's a garbage clown in my room and I'm confused. Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
No.
So, so yeah, so that's everything that I really have on sleep paralysis. If anybody has a sleep paralysis story, send it to us. I would love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, thank you to everybody who joined us this week for our sleep paralysis episode. I actually learned quite a bit that I did not know because again, this is something that I don't suffer from. So I actually found it very enlightening to find new stuff about it. My God.
You're having
to
a hard time.
I really am, to find out new stuff about it. There we go. Someday I'll get it. And thank you, Nick, for joining us. I appreciate
Yes.
it.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for joining. If you'd like to keep in contact with the podcast, you can follow us on Facebook at,
2K away.
and you can follow us on Instagram at,
2K away podcast.
and we do have a YouTube channel. It is,
2K away podcast.
and we also do have a Gmail where you can contact us or suggest something or simply say hello. Or I'm still going to be waiting on that Scottish person to send us them
That rhyme?
saying that rhyme from last episode.
Yes. Because I
That would
have to hear
be
that.
And again, I will play it in an episode because I get way too excited about stuff. But what is our Gmail page?
It is 2kawaypodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. And again, stay tuned for the Patreon. It will be launching shortly, but we're
Soonish.
tinkering with ideas of merch and whatnot. So keep that in mind. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all for next week for Pages Week.
Bye.
Bye.